Good morning. It's Monday, April 5th. I'm NASA's Leah Cheshire. You're looking at a live view of the Dragon resilient spacecraft as we await its departure from one docking port on the International Space Station to another in what we refer to as a port relocation. Dragon will be moving from International Docking Adapter 2, or IDA 2, on the Forward Harmony port to IDA 3 on the Zenith, or space-facing Harmony port, in order to prepare for the arrival of a new crew and the upcoming delivery of new solar arrays this summer. We expect Dragon to push away from the space station with NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, and Shannon Walker, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Soichi Noguchi.
Again, for the lighting and the MPEG streamer for whatever camera you guys are streaming, and then also visually, because it's dark, it's going to be close to impossible to verify visual separation. I can do this by essentially interpolating where the lit windows are, and once those start moving, but I don't have actual visual on the camera, and you guys probably don't either, to the docking interface separation from the vehicle.
Copy all, Kate. We do anticipate that during separation it will be daylight, so your visual should be better by then.
All right, thank you. Good to know.
Teams on the ground communicating with Kate Rubins aboard the International Space Station, who will be monitoring today's undocking from the station side. But these four astronauts, Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, and Shannon Walker, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Soichi Noguchi, are on board the Crew Dragon and will depart at 5:30 a.m. Central Time, 10:30 GMT. Joining me from SpaceX in Hawthorne this morning to walk you through everything is Andy Tran. Hey, Andy.
Hey, Leah, and good morning to everyone. I'm Andy Tran here from SpaceX. It is an exciting morning. This will be the first port relocation of a Crew Dragon spacecraft. At this point, the crew is suited. Both the Dragon and APAS hatches have been closed, and the vestibule leak checks are almost complete. There are 4 seats configured right now inside of Dragon and are numbered 1 to 4 from right to left. When looking at the seats, Mike is in seat number 2, or the commander seat. He is the person closest to the camera on screen right now. And Victor is beside him in seat number 3, which for Crew Dragon is the pilot seat. Soichi is in seat number 1, and Shannon is in seat 4. We are waiting for a go, no-go for departure, which we are expecting at 5:15 a.m. Central Time, or 10:15 GMT. Once Dragon pushes away from the station, the full maneuver will last approximately 45 minutes. And while Dragon is just moving parking spots, the crew and vehicle have undergone all the same checkouts and preparations as if they were getting ready to return to Earth. That way, in the unlikely event that we see an off-nominal scenario, the crew and vehicle are prepared to deorbit and return safely home.
Before we go into greater detail on what's involved in the port relocation process, everything has moved very smoothly this morning, so let's recap what's already happened. The crew woke up at 1 Central Time, 6 GMT, and you're seeing right now a live view inside SpaceX Mission Control in Hawthorne, California. We're in a current satellite handover with our TDRS, our tracking data and relay satellite systems. These are tracked and monitored, and we expect to regain communications with the station and Crew Dragon shortly. But more about what the crew members have been up to so far this morning. At 2:55 Central, 7:55 GMT, crew members Shannon Walker and Soichi Noguchi suited up before boarding Crew Dragon, while Victor Glover and Mike Hopkins waited until they finished closing Dragon's hatch before donning their suits. At 3:10, the 4 astronauts boarded Dragon for the port relocation maneuver, and at 3:26 Central, 8:26 GMT, the crew closed Dragon's hatch. Hopkins and Glover then put on those SpaceX spacesuits, which will be worn throughout today's maneuver. Once they finished suiting up, all 4 crew members performed leak checks on their suits. Once Dragon's hatch was closed, Kate Rubins affixed a docking target to the outside of the APAS hatch and then closed it, creating a space between Dragon and station known as the vestibule. Kate then made her way out of the pressurized mating adapter, leaving the forward hatch on node 2 open, but ensuring the zenith hatch is closed. She'll monitor the relocate maneuver from the cupola. Once all hatches were closed, a ground command was sent to open valves on the Dragon to begin depressurizing the vestibule at 3:57 Central, 8:57 GMT. This essentially vents the air from inside and brings it down close to a vacuum. They paused at approximately 5 psi for a few minutes to allow temperatures inside the vestibule to stabilize before continuing with that depressurization.
And that brings us up to speed with the events of the day. From this point forward, here is what to expect. At 5:15 Central Time or 10:15 GMT, teams in Mission Control Houston and Mission Control at SpaceX in Hawthorne do a joint go-no-go for undocking. About 10 minutes later, a undocking command will be sent, followed by a few minutes for the two umbilicals that connect power and data between the two spacecraft to detach, and for 12 hooks holding Dragon in place to retract. At 5:30 Central Time, after the hooks have retracted, Dragon will fire its thrusters in 2 short bursts to break the stiction between it and the docking port and physically separate from the station. Dragon will begin to slowly back off from the station and activate its LiDAR, and that happens in that blue section that you see on screen right now. LiDAR stands for Light Detection and Ranging, and it helps to begin tracking the space station. Once it acquires a solid signal, the ground will command Dragon to hold approximately 60 meters away from the station, and once everything looks good, Dragon will begin to move from in front of the station to above it, and that is the relocation maneuver or transition maneuver in the orange portion of the graphic that you see on screen. At about 5:38 Central Time, Dragon begins its maneuver towards the zenith port of Harmony and International Docking Adapter number 3. We expect Dragon to take about 15 minutes to make the trip above the station with a check-in halfway at what you'll hear called the midpoint. It will stop and hold once it's 60 meters above the Node 2 zenith port and prepare for final approach in that purple section.
And once we reach that area, flight controllers in Hawthorne will once again command Dragon to begin its approach, flying in until it reaches waypoint 2, which is just 20 meters away from the station. Once Dragon reaches 20 meters, it will hold one final time for teams on the ground and the astronauts aboard Dragon to do a final check before docking. If everything continues to go on schedule today, we expect to see that around 6:07 Central, 11:07 GMT. There aren't any strict requirements to complete docking during a day or night pass, but there's always the chance this hold could continue until the lighting conditions on the docking port are ideal. And once ready, Dragon will begin that final approach. Dragon will make initial contact with IDA-3 and its soft-capture system will retract to bring the Dragon spacecraft in closer for hard capture. That's accomplished by deploying 12 hooks to firmly hold Dragon in place and takes about 15 minutes. After that, we will wrap up our coverage for the day.
After all docking events are successful, flight controllers will configure Dragon for docked operations, connecting power and data to the spacecraft once more. The crew will be able to get out of their spacesuits and set them up to dry and begin operations to get the hatches back open. This includes pressurizing the vestibule and a new round of leak checks. Depending on the exact timing, they have the option to have lunch inside Dragon or wait until back aboard the station. And we expect it to take about 2 hours before the hatches open, around 8:30 Central Time or 13:30 GMT.
Today marks the 140th day on station for this crew who lifted off from Kennedy Space Center on November 15th at 7:49 p.m. Eastern. Following a 27-and-a-half-hour trip to the station, Dragon's hatch was opened around 4 a.m. Eastern on November 16th. So far, the crew members have dedicated hundreds of hours to scientific research in the orbiting laboratory and have completed 5 spacewalks, finishing battery upgrades, connecting the Bartolomeo Science Platform, and preparing the station for new solar arrays that will launch later this year on the SpaceX Cargo Dragon spacecraft. This is the first of 6 certified crew missions NASA and SpaceX planned as a part of the agency's commercial crew program.
As mentioned earlier, the relocation will free up Harmony's forward port for docking of another Crew Dragon vehicle set to carry 4 crew members to the station on NASA's SpaceX Crew-2 mission. NASA astronauts Shane Kimbrough and Megan McArthur, JAXA astronauts Aki Hoshide, and European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet are scheduled to launch to the station Thursday, April 22nd, which just also happens to be Earth Day. They would arrive and dock to the station about 1 day after liftoff.
When the Crew-1 astronauts depart the station for return to Earth, which is currently targeted for April 28, the space-facing port of Harmony will be vacant. A Dragon cargo spacecraft carrying several tons of supplies and the first set of new solar arrays for the space station is scheduled to launch this summer and requires the space-facing port position to enable robotic extraction of the arrays from Dragon's trunk using Canadarm2.
For those just joining us, we are currently waiting the go, no-go call for departure of the Dragon Resilient spacecraft to push itself away from the International Space Station. We are expecting SpaceX and NASA to make that call around 5:15 a.m. Central Time. On screen right now is that Dragon Resilient spacecraft connected to International Docking Adapter 2. Once Dragon undocks, it will undergo an approximately 45-minute maneuver from one port to another. And while Dragon is a fully autonomous vehicle and can perform this port relocation maneuver all on its own, today our crew will be initiating a couple of commands along the way on those displays that were previously on screen. There are no technical reasons why the crew has to command anything, but the crew wanted to basically test drive the vehicle today, so to speak. The plan for future flights is that ground will send all of the commands and crew will just be monitoring Dragon's progress along the way. So for the maneuver today, you'll hear a couple of calls from the core in Hawthorne to the crew, giving them a go to send several commands, permitting Dragon to move through different checkpoints. Again, we are about 3 minutes away from the expected call from SpaceX and NASA for departure of Dragon Resilient spacecraft.
And good news here in Houston, the team in Mission Control Houston for the International Space Station is go.
On the big loop. Final reconfigurations for undock are complete and nominal. The ground is go for undocking at the targeted undock sequence start time of 1025 UTC. Please confirm your visors are down and you are ready for undock and port relocation at the planned time.
And SpaceX from Dragon, copy, go for the undock. Visors are secure and closed.
Copy all.
Station Houston 2 for Kate. Perform steps 2 through end in 1.602. Dragon departure monitoring.
Copy steps 2 through N in 1.602, Dragon departure monitoring. ISS crew is ready for Dragon undocking at 1025.
Copy all.
That's good news from the ground side here today. Both SpaceX and Mission Control Houston teams reporting that they are go for today's undock and that everything looks good with the systems aboard Crew Dragon and the International Space Station for a successful maneuver. Things continue to move along right on time, and we expect to see that departure beginning at 5:30 a.m. Central.
Preparation for this port relocation has taken place for weeks, but yesterday teams checked out Dragon systems preparing for today's departure, including the common communications for visiting vehicle systems, or C2V2, a data stream from Crew Dragon to the station. At around 5:20 a.m. Central Time, we are expecting the call for vestibule to press to be completed just a few minutes from now. And And SpaceX performed a checkout of Dragon's propulsion systems and guidance navigation control, as well as checked out the Crew Dragon's seat actuators. In the afternoon, the SpaceX team tested the tracking data and relay satellite system, or TDRS, on the spacecraft, and that allows space-to-ground communication.
A little more about the preparations prior to today. Yesterday, Shannon Walker also spent some time removing computers from Dragon that have been stored in the spacecraft but are used on the station. Soichi Noguchi continued that work this morning, and prior to boarding Crew Dragon, Glover and Walker worked to remove any emergency hardware inside Crew Dragon, transferring that to the station side. Mike Hopkins, of course, packed away the sleep station where he has been staying inside Crew Dragon during its journey to the space station. As you can see, it is daylight outside the space station. It moves at approximately 17,500 miles around the Earth, meaning it sees a sunrise or a sunset every 45 minutes. And as we heard the Capcom discussing with Kate Rubins, they expect the undocking to occur in daylight, so we should get some good views here of Crew Dragon departing IDA-2.
And for those just joining us, we are just beginning the mission, so to speak, of the Crew Dragon relocation from International Docking Adapter 2 to the space-facing port International Docking Adapter 3 to make room for the next crew vehicle that will be launched. We're targeting April 22nd. And we just a few minutes ago, we got the confirmation for a go of undocking. And as Leah mentioned, we're expecting that to happen in a few minutes here.
April is quite a busy month aboard the International Space Station. Coming up this Friday, we have the next launch to the station. That's Soyuz MS-18 with one NASA astronaut, Mark Vande Hei, and two Roscosmos cosmonauts, Oleg Novitsky and Pyotr Dubrov, heading toward the International Space Station. And once they arrive, we will have 10 crew members on the station. That won't be for too long, though, because on April 16th, Kate Rubins, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Sergei Kutsverchkov will depart aboard their Soyuz MS-17. However, on April 22nd, Crew 2 will launch. That's Megan McArthur, Shane Kimbrough, Thomas Pesquet, and Aki Hoshide. And then on April 28th, Crew-1, the crew that we are watching today on board Crew Dragon, will depart the space station, but this time for Earth. That's Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and Soichi Noguchi. However, today is just a field trip outside the orbiting laboratory, moving from one parking spot to another to allow for Crew 2 to arrive on April 22nd, as well as that Cargo Dragon to arrive later this year with those solar arrays.
And on screen right now is a view of the crew inside of Dragon and their displays. Again, they'll be sending a few commands today during the port relocation. And there's Dragon attached to International Docking Adapter 2. A little bit about the upgraded Dragon vehicle. Dragon 1 to dock required berthing, and berthing is where the International Space Station will sort of send out a robotic arm and grab the previous edition of Dragon and connect it with the ISS. Dragon 2, the vehicle that you see on screen, can do autonomous docking all on its own and will not require berthing or that robotic arm from the International Space Station.
The technology we have now with this autonomous docking aboard Crew Dragon has been implemented in the new version of Cargo Dragon, which we mentioned will be arriving later this year with those solar arrays. The International Space Station is currently flying 268 statute miles over the South Atlantic Ocean to the east of Uruguay.
We're about 5 minutes away from Dragon's hooks to start opening up and sort of the initiation sequence of undocking from Dragon from the International Space Station. We are expecting a call out for vestibule to press complete here any moment now.
We've been discussing that undocking. We expect to see that around 5:30, but the command being sent a few minutes early because it takes a few minutes for those hooks to unlatch from the International Space Station, as well as the retraction of the umbilical, which provides power and data from the space station to Crew Dragon.
The entire maneuver today from undocking to redocking on the new port, we're expecting to take approximately 45 minutes. Again, this is to make room for the new Dragon that is being launched on Earth Day this year, April 22nd.
Undocking in Crew Dragon looks a little bit different than undocking in a Soyuz spacecraft. There are no springs that push the vehicle away from the space station, so instead we'll see the vehicle fire 2 short burns from those service section Draco thrusters, and that will break any stiction between Crew Dragon and the space station. You can see the nose cone open on Crew Dragon right now. There are also some forward bulkhead thrusters that live underneath the nose cone, but of course we won't be using those today. These service section Dracos are used for maneuvers when we are around the International Space Station and need to be very careful of Dragon's position.
We're about a minute away from the expected command to open up Dragon's hooks at approximately 5:25 a.m. Central Time. During this stage, we'll have the umbilicals retract away. Those are what send power and Dragon send power and data to the Dragon. And for the hooks, we have 12 hooks in total. They're made up of 2 sets of 6s.
This view over the shoulders of Mike Hopkins and Victor Glover as they look at the displays on Crew Dragon. As we've mentioned, this is an autonomous vehicle, and so there will be a few commands sent by the crew today, but Kate Rubins is monitoring from the space station.
On the big loop, undock sequence commanded.
And copy, see the same.
And right on time at 5:25 a.m. Central, we have confirmation that the undock sequence has begun, that command being sent to Crew Dragon to begin opening up those hooks.
And just prior to this, the vestibule depress did complete. We didn't hear a call out, but the vestibule is the space between Dragon and station hatches that will be exposed.
Umbilical demate complete and nominal.
You heard the call that the umbilicals are starting to retract. The vestibule is the space between Dragon and station hatches that will be exposed to the vacuum of space following undocking. Ground controllers command Dragon to begin the depress, opening a valve on the Dragon side to slowly remove the air from the vestibule. Once completed, the teams then execute leak checks on Dragon and station to ensure both sides are airtight prior to the undocking command that was just sent. And we reverse this process once Dragon is docked, taking air from the station and pressurizing the vestibule before hatches are reopened.
Things continuing smoothly for Crew Dragon. We heard that the umbilical had successfully retracted, and now the hooks are opening. There are 2 sets of 6, meaning 12 hooks in total, and we are watching those hooks retract. Hearing nominal calls here on the ground, meaning everything is looking good.
And on screen is the Dragon Resilient spacecraft. Dragon is comprised of 2 parts. The right-hand side, the
big loop, first set of hooks open and nominal.
Continuing to hear good news. The first set of hooks has opened up nominally. The conical section, the right-hand side of Dragon, that is where the crew is at. That is the capsule portion of the Dragon vehicle. On the left-hand side, the left half is the trunk section. You'll notice that the top half is black. Those are solar panels built into the trunk. If you've been following the Dragon program, you'll know that the Dragon 1 configuration had solar arrays that would deploy post-liftoff, but this was one of the upgrades to the Dragon vehicle.
In that trunk portion, there can be unpressurized cargo delivered to station. And as we mentioned, the spacecraft itself on the right, Crew Dragon, is the only piece that returns to Earth. That trunk is jettisoned prior to the astronauts re-entering Earth's atmosphere, and that burns up harmlessly over the ocean. However, Crew Dragon itself splashes down. Second set of hooks continues to open, and we will be watching for physical movement and physical separation of the Crew Dragon vehicle from the International Space Station shortly.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, all hooks open and nominal.
And you can see on screen, Dragon Resilient spacecraft has undocked from the International Space Station at 3:30.
Dragon separation confirmed.
And what a view to see at 3:30. Dragon spacecraft has undocked from the International Space Station at approximately 3:30 Central Time, just off the coast of West Africa or Liberia. So we had a couple of undocking burns. The first burn lasted about...
on the big loop, relocate, burn 0, complete and nominal.
Dragon.
We had a couple of burns. The first undocking burn was about a second and a half, and the second burn lasted for about 5 seconds. And
Dragon
SpaceX on the big loop, we see the same.
And you heard the call out just a few seconds ago for the relocation burn 0, and that lasted about 21 seconds. Again, we did get confirmation of undocking at 5:30 a.m. Central Time, 10:30 GMT, while the station and Dragon were flying 263 statute miles over the Atlantic Ocean to the south of Liberia.
Everything.
Dragon used... Sorry, Leah, go ahead.
Thanks. Everything continuing well for Dragon on its maneuver.
2 minutes. First slot 4, enable. ISS thrusters enabled.
Copy and concur.
And now about 2 minutes into this relocation, which we expect to last about 45 minutes, Crew Dragon continues to back away from its former home on International Docking Adapter 2.
And as it backs up, it is working to acquire LiDAR tracking, which will be used by Dragon to autonomously execute the relocation maneuver. And there's a view from Dragon looking and trying to acquire LiDAR from the International Space Station. We're expecting to go straight back about 60 meters.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, we are about to command a hold.
Dragon.
Now, if we do go past 60-meter mark, it will approach back to that distance before the relocation maneuver that will bring Dragon above the station to the new docking access, right above the Zenith port.
As Andy mentioned, it has now made it to 83 meters and will move back into 60 meters before maneuvering to bring Dragon above the station.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, ground has confirmed good relative navigation performance. You are go to command go to relocate, and you are go to raise your visors as well.
And copies go to relocate and work.
Just heard the crew operations and resources engineer, we also refer to them as core, talking to the astronauts, allowing them to begin relocation to the new docking access.
Crew Dragon continues to hold at that 83-meter mark, but will begin moving soon. However, all of this is taking place today inside the Keep Out Sphere. That's the 200-meter invisible line around station. That's one of the ways we monitor vehicles as they arrive and depart at the International Space Station.
Dragon, you can see if you look closely, it's getting closer to the International Space Station. We are targeting moving back from 83 meters to 60 meters before we begin to make that transition upwards to the new docking access.
As you can see, Crew Dragon is still in line with that forward-facing port. And when it relocates, it will be above the International Space Station and dock to the zenith or space-facing port. Crew Dragon continuing to move in slowly, just under 75 meters now away from the International Space Station.
Right at the center of Dragon, there is a centerline camera, and that is what Dragon is using to line up with the port of the International Space Station. We are 68 meters away. Again, targeting that 60-meter mark before we start to transition upward to the new docking port.
We just got a view of the Earth below Crew Dragon and the International Space Station. They were flying 262 statute miles over Mali.
For those just joining, Crew Dragon undocked about 8 minutes ago at 5:30 Central Time. This is the first port relocation of a Crew Dragon vehicle ever. And right now we're waiting to get inside that 60-meter range from the International Space Station before we begin to transition upward.
And it looks like we're getting very close, just about 61 meters away from the station, so we should expect to hear that 60-meter call shortly. Crew Dragon is at that 60-meter mark. Teams on the ground checking to make sure we are go for that translational maneuver.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. You are go to command relocate transfer to begin the access translation. Reminder that soft capture ring deploy will begin in relocate to access.
Dragon copies, go to relocate transfer and work.
Station Houston on 2 for Kate. Monitor per block Delta, step 3 in 1.602, Dragon departure monitoring.
Copy 1.602, block Delta, step 3 monitoring.
As you can see, Crew Dragon has begun that transfer maneuver and will be moving up to the midpoint. They'll get another go there to continue the maneuver before moving directly above the IDA-3 or International Docking Adapter 3 on the zenith or space-facing port on the Harmony module.
We are expecting this relocation maneuver from one axis to the other to take approximately 15 minutes, with reaching the midpoint halfway between that time.
This is Crew-1 and the first ever port location of a Crew Dragon. There have been a lot of firsts on this mission, and just a look at who is on board the spacecraft today, starting with Crew Dragon Commander Mike Hopkins. He was born in Lebanon, Missouri, but grew up outside Richland. Selected as an astronaut by NASA in 2009 and is a colonel in the U.S. Space Force. He holds degrees in aerospace engineering. Hopkins previously flew on the Russian Soyuz as a member of the Expedition 37 and 38 crew, and his military experience includes testing C-17 and C-130 aircraft. This year, he's completed 3 spacewalks during the mission to prepare the station for new solar arrays that will arrive on a cargo Dragon later this year, as well as complete other station upgrades.
Next up, as part of the crew, is pilot Victor Glover. He is a native of Pomona, California, and was selected as an astronaut by NASA in 2013. Glover is a commander in the United States Navy. He holds degrees in general engineering, flight test engineering, systems engineering, and military operational art and science. He has extensive military test flight experience, was a test pilot for the FA-18 Hornet, the Super Hornet, and the EA-18G Growler. He has accumulated 3,000 flight hours in more than 40 aircraft and over 400 carrier arrest landings and 24 combat missions. The Crew-1 mission has been Glover's first spaceflight. He's also completed 3 spacewalks this year, servicing the station's cooling system, installing the final lithium-ion battery for station upgrades, and preparing the orbiting lab for new solar arrays.
Things still moving smoothly for Crew Dragon as it makes its way to the next axis, moving from in front of the IDA or International Docking Adapter 2 to the Zenith port on the Harmony module or IDA-3. You can see that perspective start to shift just a little bit. Also on board Crew Dragon today is mission specialist Shannon Walker from Houston, Texas. She was selected as an astronaut by NASA in 2004 and is a doctor of philosophy in space physics. Walker previously flew on the Russian Soyuz as a flight engineer for Expedition 2425 in space for 163 days. She's also one of only a few dozen people to be both an astronaut and an aquanaut, having spent 13 days underwater during NASA's Extreme Environments Mission Operations 15, or NEMO 15. And during that mission, she lived inside the world's only research station beneath the ocean surface. This view inside Mission Control Houston, where NASA teams are monitoring the relocation of Crew Dragon and the systems aboard the International Space Station. We're currently in another satellite handover, and we should regain begin video and communications with the spacecraft shortly.
On screen right now is mission control at SpaceX Hawthorne. The last member on board Dragon today is mission specialist Soichi Noguchi from Yokohama, Kanagawa, Japan. He was selected as an astronaut by Japan in 1996, has degrees in aeronautical engineering, and is a doctor of philosophy in advanced interdisciplinary studies. He previously flew on STS-114 on the Space Shuttle Discovery and on the Russian Soyuz as a member of the Expedition 22-23 crew. While on STS-114, he became the first Japanese astronaut to perform spacewalks on the International Space Station, completing 3 spacewalks totaling 20 hours. Noguchi is only one of 3 people to have flown on 3 different spacecraft, the Space Shuttle, a Russian Soyuz, and now a Crew Dragon.
Crew Dragon continues making its axis transition from in front of the IDA-2 to IDA-3, things moving smoothly and about 57 meters away from the space station.
Both Crew Dragon and the International Space Station are currently still orbiting over the Earth. They're right over the Black Sea right now. Again, we are expecting to reach that midpoint between the 2 docking axes here in a few minutes.
And a reminder today, if you're just joining us, of why this port relocation is happening. In just a few weeks, we expect to see Crew 2, the second Crew Dragon long-duration mission, launch to the International Space Station, and they will be docking to the port that was just vacated by Crew 1 aboard Crew Dragon Resilience. And after the departure of Crew 1 for Earth later this month, we also will see the arrival of a cargo Dragon later this summer, bringing new solar arrays to the station. And that zenith or space-facing port is the proper position for those solar arrays to be extracted from Dragon's trunk. Undocking occurred right on time today at 5:30 a.m. Central, 10:30 GMT. Things continue to move smoothly, and we expect to see Dragon make contact with the station once again around 6:15 Central. Coming up shortly, we will reach the midpoint in that axis transition.
At the very top of your screen, you can see the new parking spot for Crew 1. That is the Zenith port. And Dragon again continues to make its way towards that docking access.
Dragon, SpaceX on the big loop. Midpoint has been reached.
Dragon copies, we see the same, and we see soft capture ring deploy started.
And a big milestone, you just heard the call out that we have reached the midpoint between the two docking axes. A little bit of what's to come. Dragon will continue its transition maneuver to the zenith port docking axis. Hold for LiDAR confirmation, and then start making its way towards waypoint 2, which is approximately 20 meters away from the International Space Station. From there, we'll resume docking and final approach with a soft capture, then eventually a hard capture. We're expecting docking to be completed at approximately 6:30 Central Time, 6:30 a.m. Central Time.
There is a soft capture ring on Crew Dragon, and once there is contact between the spacecraft and the International Space Station, that soft capture ring will retract until sensors indicate it's time for hooks to drive and create the hard capture that we'll be looking for around 6:30. That firmly secures Dragon to station. We've mentioned NASA astronaut Kate Rubins is monitoring this maneuver from inside the International Space Station, sending no commands, but watching on from the cupola. There are currently 7 people living on the International Space Station, Kate Rubins, as well as our 4 astronauts we have on Crew Dragon today, Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, Shannon Walker, and Soichi Noguchi, as well as 2 Roscosmos cosmonauts inside the station, Sergei Ryzhikov and Sergei Kitsverchkov.
Again, there's a view of both the ports. The bottom port is International Docking Adapter 2, where Dragon Resilient spacecraft just undocked from. International IDA-2 was launched on CRS-9 in July of 2016 and attached to the International Space Station in August of that year. First docking on IDA-2 was done on Crew Dragon's Demo 1 mission in March of 2019. And where that blue crosshair is at, that is International Docking Adapter 3. That is our target destination for the Crew Dragon vehicle today. IDA-3 is new. It launched in July of 2019 and attached to the International Space Station August of the same year. First docking on IDA-3 was done on mission CRS-21 in December 2020.
The International Space Station currently flying 264 statute miles over Kazakhstan. As we mentioned, there is a launch coming up this Friday, and that is where the rocket will lift off from, carrying Mark Vande of NASA, Oleg Novitsky of Russia, as well as Pyotr Dubrov of Russia as well. The next major call we can expect to hear is that Crew Dragon has arrived at the docking axis directly above that IDA-3. great view from the Dragon itself right now. The vehicle is 56 meters away, and we'll be looking for it to arrive around 60 meters. However, they do not necessarily have to complete a hold at that docking axis. They may move very quickly directly to waypoint 2, that 20-meter mark away from the International Space Station. We also have confirmation that the soft docking ring is fully deployed. We mentioned that will come in contact with the International Space Station, and the sensor will retract until the sensors indicate those hooks are ready to drive and create that firm seal.
And just some phenomenal views of the transition maneuver and Crew Dragon today. Got about 11 minutes left of sunlight.
The astronauts aboard Crew Dragon are remaining in their seats and in their suits for today's maneuver. After launch and on the ride home, sometimes they have the opportunity to get out of their seats and suits. However, because there is so much dynamic activity happening in this relatively short maneuver, about 45 minutes, the crew members will remain seated and suited for today's mission.
We are just under 2 minutes from being lined up with that new Zenith docking access. From there, we'll await the go to approach waypoint 2. Again, that is 20 meters away from the station.
There will be a hold conducted at waypoint 2 at 20 meters. That'll be for final alignment and checkout of Dragon, as well as checking any lighting conditions and confirming that all teams on the ground are ready for a final approach.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Dragon has arrived at the second 60-meter hold point. Dragon is configured for docking. The ground is go for a continued approach, and when you are ready, you are go to command resume to approach to waypoint 2.
Dragon copies. We're at the 60-meter hold on the docking axis. Ground is go for resuming the approach, and we have to go when we're ready.
Read back.
Station Houston on space to ground 2 for Kate.
SpaceX Dragon, we've commanded the resume.
And Dragon SpaceX, we see it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Hopper.
And Kate, approach is resuming to waypoint 2. Monitor per step 2 in 1.104. Crew Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
One 1.104.
Right on the timeline, Crew Dragon moving in toward waypoint 2, 20 meters above IDA 3 on the International Space Station.
And it'll take about 5 minutes to get to waypoint 2, about 20 meters away from the International Space Station. But for those that are just joining us, a summary of events so far. The Dragon resilient spacecraft successfully undocked from the International Space Station at 5:30 Central Time. It backed up and got LiDAR acquisition and completed its transition maneuver from the IDA-2 docking access to the IDA-3 docking access. You just heard the callouts that we are resuming approach towards waypoint 2.
Ground 2, ISS crew is ready. Procedure review complete. Docking ready from ISS.
Houston copies.
We started at 60 meters away, and we are currently at 40 meters away. And once we reach 20, we will hold for the go of final approach and dock.
As we heard them relay to teams on the ground, the crew is the one who sent the command for approach to waypoint 2 today. This can be a fully autonomous procedure. However, the crew is getting the chance to test out some of those features on Crew Dragon themselves.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. The ground is go for approach 2. Please confirm you are ready for final approach and your visors are down.
And copies in work. And Dragon, SpaceX from Dragon, visors are closed.
SpaceX copies, visors closed. We will be commanding the approach allow and resume shortly. As a reminder, once Dragon is inside the crew hands-off point, retreat and breakout are not permitted.
Dragon.
Coming up on that 20-meter mark away from station at waypoint 2. Capcom relaying up information about the crew hands-off point.
Station Houston 2 for Kate. Monitor per steps 3 and 4.
Dragon, we are go for approach 2.
We copy, go for approach 2.
And with that, Kate, you are go to monitor per steps
3 and 4.
Crews and teams giving their go for approach. As we were discussing that crew hands-off point or CHOP, you'll hear that call about 2 meters before contact, meaning if the vehicle needs to abort today's docking with the International Space Station, it can still occur, but will not be triggered by the crew and should be triggered by Dragon itself.
The final approach is going to take approximately 4 minutes. And if you look closely, you can see the Draco engines on the service section of Dragon becoming more and more active, making minor adjustments as we continue to approach the International Space Station.
Crew Dragon now 15 meters away from IDA 3. International Space Station and Crew Dragon recently crossed the terminator line, that difference between day and night, and are currently flying 261 statute miles over South Korea.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, 10 meters.
And copies, we show 8 meters.
See the soft docking capture ring. Again, once we get around 2 meters, we should hear a call out for CHOP, which stands for Crew Hands Off Point. It means that any aborts initiated by Dragon needs to be initiated by Dragon after that point rather than by the crew.
Now just under 5 meters away from the International Space Station.
SpaceX on the big loop, 5 meters.
Dragon. Meters, CHOP.
Dragon SpaceX soft capture confirmed.
Dragon copies, you see the same.
Soft capture confirmed of Crew-1 aboard SpaceX Crew Dragon Resilience to the International Docking Adapter 3 on the space-facing port of the Harmony module on the International Space Station. That coming at 6:08 a.m. Central Time, 11:08 GMT, while Station and Dragon were flying 261 statute miles in altitude just to the south of Japan.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Soft capture ring retraction in progress.
Copies, we see the same.
That soft capture ring will continue until sensors indicate those hooks are ready to drive and create the hard capture, and that should take about 15 minutes.
And Dragon will remain here for a little bit while, as Leah mentioned, we retract the soft capture ring, put the final hooks in place, and then confirm a hard mate, which again is an airtight seal around between the crew vehicle and the International Space Station. After hard capture is complete, we do expect a couple more leak checks and the hatch to be opened about 2 hours later. Again, we are targeting 8:30 a.m. Central Time for the hatch to open up.
A recap at what we've seen with this port relocation. The undock sequence was commanded at 5:25 a.m. Central Time, and right on time, Crew Dragon undocked at 5:30 a.m. Central, 10:30 GMT. Crew Dragon backed away to about 60 meters on that undocking axis before making a transition maneuver to just above the station and the zenith or space-facing port of IDA-3. We saw Crew Dragon move into waypoint 2, which is 20 meters away from the International Space Station, before making its slow and final approach to the space station itself, docking at 6:08 a.m. Central Time, 11:08 GMT.
This vehicle was the first operational crewed flight of a Crew Dragon spacecraft. It launched November of 2020 from Kennedy Space Center off of Pad 39A and originally docked to International Docking Adapter 2.
On the big loop, ring retraction is complete. Docking sequence is holding for MCS reconfiguration.
Dragon copies, we see the same.
Things continuing to go well for the docking sequence. This vehicle originally docked to IDA-2 in November of 2020. And now it's docked to, once again, to International Docking Adapter 3. Again, this is the first port relocation of a Crew Dragon vehicle.
We had confirmation that the soft capture ring retracted successfully, and we got a short look from Dragon's centerline camera looking in at the International Space Station, and that was actually a view of the vestibule that we've been discussing, that space between Crew Dragon and the A-Pass hatch. That's the space that will need to be pressurized prior to hatches opening today. And there's that vestibule as we were discussing.
Station Houston on 2 for Kate. MCS configured, proceeding with hook driving.
Copies.
Those words from the Capcom, or capsule communicator, to crew member Kate Rubens, who is aboard the International Space Station and was monitoring today's relocation, signifying that the hooks are ready to drive and secure Dragon to the station. That first set of hooks has begun driving, and everything is looking good so far. first set of hooks continue to drive and create that hard seal between Crew Dragon and the International Space Station. As a reminder, there are 2 sets of hooks, 6 on each, and everything continuing nominally or proceeding well for the first set.
Now, after all docking events are successful, flight controllers will configure Dragon for docked operations, reconnecting power and data to the spacecraft. The crew currently inside the capsule section of Dragon, comprised of Mike Hopkins, the mission commander, Victor Glover, the pilot, Soichi Noguchi, the mission specialist, and Shannon Walker, another mission specialist. They will be able to get out of their spacesuits and begin the operations to get the hatches back open. This includes pressurizing the vestibule and a new round of leak checks.
And we heard a call that those first 6 hooks have closed successfully, and the second set are now driving to create that hard mate that we're looking for, completing the docking process. Now 10 minutes since Crew Dragon made its new home on the International Space Station at International Docking Adapter 3, the space-facing or zenith port on the Harmony module. And we are hearing good reports that the second set of hooks continue to drive into the space station.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, hard capture complete.
Dragon copies, we see the same.
And we just heard the call to the crew that the second set of hooks is complete and has driven into the International Space Station. Everything by the book this morning and on time, with Crew Dragon making contact with the International Space Station's IDA-3 at 6:08 a.m. Central Time. 11:08 GMT, while Station and Dragon were flying 261 statute miles in altitude just to the south of Japan. Now that Crew-1 NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, and Shannon Walker, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Soichi Noguchi have redocked with the International Space Station, we're going to wrap up our live coverage of Dragon's first ever port relocation maneuver. The crew will take time now to get out of their suits and begin the process of opening up the hatches in about 2 hours. As a reminder, today's operations helped set the stage for the arrival of NASA's Crew-2 astronauts in just a couple of weeks. NASA astronauts Shane Kimbrough and Megan McArthur, JAXA astronaut Aki Hoshide and ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet, are scheduled to launch to the station Thursday, April 22nd, which also happens to be Earth Day. They will arrive and dock to the station about 1 day later. Ahead of Crew-2's arrival, however, we'll be watching 2 other crews arrive and depart the orbiting lab. On Friday, April 9th, NASA's Mark Vande Hei and Russian cosmonauts Oleg Novitsky and Pyotr Dubrov will launch to the station. You can watch live starting at 1:45 a.m. Central Time, 2:45 Eastern. And just 1 week later, Soyuz MS-17 will depart the station, bringing NASA's Kate Rubins and Roscosmos Sergei Ryzhikov and Sergei Kudzverchkov back to Earth.
Once Crew 2 arrives, we'll have a handover period of several days where we'll have 11 crew members aboard the station. Crew 1 is currently targeted to depart the station and return to Earth on April 28th. Stay tuned to SpaceX and NASA social media as well as our websites for the latest updates on the upcoming missions.
On the big loop, docking sequence is complete. Ground will be enabling hardline power and comm connections shortly. You are go to dock your suits per procedure 4.012.
And SpaceX Houston from Resilience, congratulations on a successful port relocation. I know we got leak checks to go, but great capability that's going to really enhance the options up here for International Space Station. So congratulations.
And Dragon SpaceX, thanks for the kind words. Thanks to all you've done as well.
And with that, thanks again for tuning in today. And we hope you'll join us for the launch of Crew 2 and return of Crew 1 in just a few weeks. Have a great morning, and we'll see you all soon.